Welcome to the Behind the Brand segment of Conversational Currency. I'm your host, Shadeed Eleazer. Conversational Currency is the fastest growing platform which focuses on the value and importance of social skills for business in the digital era. Now, today we have a special guest, Miss Linda Cain. And Linda, my audience is intrigued. My audience is captivated. My audience is excited about the story behind the success or the why behind the what. So please share with us some of the details of your story, your origins, and what led you up to this point.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited to share. And I actually started in live events way back in my college days. And while all my friends were flipping burgers, working in fast food restaurants, or working in retail to help them, with their college and extra funding and all of that, I found and landed a position with a caterer and started doing wedding catering. And I found that I could work 1 or 2 Saturdays a month and, do a 12, 16-hour type day and make all the extra cash that I needed, and it didn't interfere with my regular weeks of what I had to do for school and studies and everything, and I could just pop in on a Saturday or a Sunday and work a wedding and then, make some extra money, and it was a lot of fun. And so that's where I first started working with events and with people and seeing what is possible, taking an idea and pulling it together with resources and creating something amazing and fun. And then from there, the summer, my third year of college, a friend of mine whose father worked at a law firm, they had a summer internship available where you could come in and work with their summer program. And so I thought, oh, law firm, that might be kind of fun, do something there. And so I took this summer job. Well, that turned into a 14-year career working with the firm, doing all kinds of corporate events, firm events, partner retreats, client relations, and I ended up in their marketing department. And from there, I was in charge of anything that had to do with client relations. So anything that the firm wanted to do, whether it was taking the partners to Vail with their families for a snow retreat weekend, or taking the students that came in through the summer program to Mexico on a train, or doing a big client appreciation party by finding a vacant lot, pitching a tent, and creating a circus. So there were so many wonderful things that during the course of that career that I had an opportunity to work on and plan and produce with events. And so the more and more I did, the more and more I loved it, fell in love with it. And then about 12 years ago, I had a friend who called me and said that she was doing this thing called a live event. And she was hosting a bunch of different speakers throughout the day, and they were going to talk to an audience of about 300 people. And she thought she could use some help, and because I had this event experience, could I come and help her? So I said, great, I would love to do that. So I arrived at this, we started planning and doing the pre-planning. I got to the event and I fell madly in love with the live event format for coaches, entrepreneurs, workshop leaders, seminars, trainers. And I went back the 2 days later, and after the event was over, I went back to work for a couple days, and I was just like, I got to get out of corporate. I need to do something for myself. And it was like this entrepreneurial spirit, they say, gets birthed in you. And so the next thing I did is I went in and I quit my job, but I asked if I could retain some of their projects. And they said, yes, we'll try this and see how this works. So I started my own event company. And back then I was doing meetings and conferences and live events, and I also still have my foot in the wedding door, and so I was still producing a few weddings. And then I had an opportunity to go back to Washington, D.C. and take a course at the Washington, D.C. School of Protocol. And while I was there, I learned about all the different cultures and etiquette around the world and dealing with people around the world, and how other people traveled, how they did events, how they participated in, what was great about their cultures, and how meetings and things like that were conducted in their cultures. And so from that course of training, I decided that I was going to open up an etiquette school. So I had a partner, and we did etiquette courses and for business and travel for a couple years. But as I was doing that, I was still simultaneously building up my live event business and working more and more with entrepreneurs and coaches. And I got hired by Adam Urbanski, the marketing mentor, who a lot of your audience may know, and if they don't, they should. He's a fabulous guy. Does a lot on internet. He's probably the internet marketing guru, in my opinion. And I met up with him, and I started doing his live events. And from there, his events, because he was participating at a higher level and had a higher level audience, I started meeting more and more of who the players are today in our field. And so from there, it was just word of mouth, and I have built a very solid live event business and produce events for a lot of our top thought leaders, workshop trainers, and entrepreneurs. And I love it, and I have a blast at it. And yes, it is a lot of work, and there's a lot of things that go into making a really good live event.
And we will definitely go into some of those details. Excellent chronological walkthrough of history, and definitely Adam is a friend to the Conversational Currency audience. I watched a broadcast that he did recently where he discussed, quote unquote, the millionaire math, and it got the wheels turning in terms of how to scale a business to 7 figures, and he's brilliant. And
he is.
Definitely. So
yeah.
One aspect that I love about your work, Linda, is that when you're introduced to the thought leaders who are on the stage, and let's say you're introduced to the world of live events via workshops or seminars or 3-day events, and you start to make your rounds and attend different events, you notice that there's a theme, or there's an engine behind some of the greatest events that we've experienced in the past few years. And what I'm curious to learn or to know is, how do you apply your magic to a given event versus understanding? So do you utilize, let's say, a template first, and then based on someone's personality, tailor certain details? How do you approach the engine behind putting together such great productions?
Oh, wow. Okay. So every live event has certain components to it that will be the same, right? So you have your registration process. Well, you have your pre-event process, and how the speaker is reaching out and connecting with their audience that they're bringing to their live event. Okay, so there's production in that piece, right? Then there's the registration process, which is the first piece where when you come to the event, that's the first connection that you have about what the event's going to be like, right? And then some events have speakers, and some events have sponsors, and there might be a sponsor area that's also a component of the live event, or other things that they're doing that is experiential to engage their audience as the audience is checking in or being at the event. So that's a second component of it. And then there's the event itself. So there's the flow of the event and what's going to take place when and where. Now, there are certain there is a method to the process, and basically there's a formula that you have of what a 3-day event is going to be like. So you have a program outline that I work from. So there'll be an opening and a session, and what you do in that session, then a break, and then on to the next session, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? But the flow of that and how that comes to be really has a lot to do with the host and what the host's personality is like, and the location of where they've chosen to hold the event, right? So all of those components have to be taken into consideration. And you have to look at, you know, one venue for one host is not going to produce the same kind of magic, if you would say, as another host, even at the same venue, because it really takes on the personality of the event, the host, and the location. And combining that together, will start to outline and present the experience that you're going to have. So, in a roundabout way, the best thing to say is that I work from really diving into getting to know my host and what their personality is like and what do they like and do they have something unique that they do. For example, last year we produced a smaller workshop style event for Jen Mayers. Now, a lot of people, she's a copyright expert, and she wanted to do a weekend event around copywriting and really have people work on their copy and leave the event with their copy in place. But a lot of people didn't know that not only does Jen do that as her business, but she is a ukulele player and a great singer. And she also is very big in meditation and just some different processes in calming your thoughts down and being able to find those thoughts to pull out, you know, your genius, right? So as I got to know her in the beginning process that I take people through when they get to know me or when I start to work with them, we started pulling out just some of the things that she liked to do and some of her processes, right? So I'm like, you should so play your ukulele on stage and sing a song to your audience. In fact, why don't we find somebody who can help you write a song for your audience and create a theme song for yourself? So we found somebody that does theme songs for this modality for live events. And we had that person help her and help her create a song. And so about first way through the first day, she introduced this song that became the theme song for her event. And everybody loved it. So it added her personality. And by doing that and drawing the host out into the audience that way, it not only is fun for the host and they get to do more things for themselves and explore themselves on stage, but it also really connects the audience to them because they get to see this side of the host that they may never get to see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just taking people through that process, and when I typically start with someone, we have an interview process where I talk to them about what their vision is, what do they really want to accomplish from their event, you know, what their goals are, and some of their ideas on how to achieve those. And then through the course of that conversation, then we build out what do they want their event to look like. So we build out this map of how their 3 days is going to take place. And then we talk about their offer, where they're going to take people after the event. Are they going to do fulfillment retreats? Are they just going to do a one-on-one coaching program? Are they doing a group coaching program? You know, what it is that they're going to take people through in the process. That also helps to build the experience at the 3 days. Because if you know that you're gonna offer a one-on-one coaching program, then some of the live event components have to be more intimate. You have to reach people on that one-on-one level during the course of your training and teaching because that's what you're going to be selling. So you want them. So you might do more hot seats. You might do more deep dives on stage to show people that you have that process to be able to work with them one-on-one. If your program that you're selling has more of a group component coaching, right, then you might do more roundtables, discussions where from stage you're walking people through a roundtable process and they're working as a group to come up with an answer, right, or to come up with a solution to something that you propose from stage. So then we just start to build out those components. And then from there you add in if they have any guest speakers, you have to make sure that the guest speakers not only fit the need that, you know, perhaps help you bring more money into the room, but also maybe help you bring a wider audience, you know, to your audience, to your program. But you also want to make sure that they connect and they have something of value to add to your audience. There's nothing worse than when a client comes to me and says, I've got my 3-day all mapped out. I followed so-and-so's formula, and I'm ready to go, and here's where I'm going to hold my event, and One, as you start to talk to them, you realize you need more space than what you've just contracted for, because you have this exercise and this exercise, and people need to get up and people need to move, right? Or you find out that, like, wow, I'm not really sure how a person who's going to come and talk about websites really fits the personal development platform. And yes, you've got this great sponsor slash speaker who's going to give you this ton of money to speak on your stage, but his topic doesn't really go with the flow and what you're training and teaching on, right? So you have to, in those situations, you have to figure out how to make that work. Um, so, so a little bit about the process.
Yes. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in, we are discussing the live event blueprint with Linda Cain and receiving a ton of wisdom and gems to implement. Now, what I've learned in the last few minutes is that the event process, there are various strategies that can be leveraged in order to create a deeper experience, a deeper connection, and it's tied into an overall strategy where if someone is selling a one-on-one program versus a group coaching program versus a retreat, there are different types of activities that can be utilized in order to make that that whole experience congruent. Now, with the idea of working with a thought leader, my question to you is, what attributes or what qualities, because everyone who's going to watch this is an expert or they may be a thought leader of some sort, but what are the intangibles or what resonates within you that lets you know that that individual is ready to take their business to a larger stage, so to speak?
Oh, okay. So pretty much, I think it's pretty simple. They, if they have, um, they really know what they're training and teaching on, and they're really clear about their message, and they're really clear of what they want to do and accomplish in their space, right? So if it's somebody who's teaching on feng shui or certifying feng shui consultants, right? They're very clear that that's what they want to do, and they want to train on it and teach it and grow it and let it develop. If someone is wanting to teach people, how to get out and speak and how to be on stages, I would expect that that person has done a lot of speaking themselves, has done a lot of stages themselves, that they've practiced their trade, they've practiced their craft. If someone is, doing online marketing or teaching you how to make a product or teaching you about, Facebook ads and things like that, you in my discussion process and getting to know them, to take them on as a client, ask a lot of questions about how, where did they come from, what their background is, what has led them to become the expert, where do they come from. And you'll find that some people, they're like, oh, I've only been a coach, or I've only been doing this for a year or two, so I don't think I'm really ready to do a live event. That's the furthest thing from the truth, because a live event doesn't mean that you have to do a 1,000-person or 500-person 3-day event, right? A live event just simply means that you're getting in front of a live audience to work your magic, to talk, have your conversation, to do your training. So that can be as small as starting off with a 10-person event, or it can be as big as, a 300, 500 and up event. So a thought leader is really, even if you're in the 1, 2, 3 years of I've had clients who, they've been teaching and training in the background to small groups, 6, 7, 8 people at a time, even doing a lot of one-on-one coaching at a time. And they don't think they're ready to do a live event, but when we go through the process, they realize, oh, I can put 40 people in a room. I can put 20 people in a room, right? And whether they're teaching to 6 people, they can quickly see that they can expand that and teach to more. Because the important thing is that they really know what they're teaching and training on. And they're really focused on growing that, and they've already um, done their own level of perfecting their craft. Does that make sense?
Definitely makes sense. Now, with the idea of the individual who comes to you and they say, well, I've only, let's say, spoken on a few stages or 100 stages, and the idea that they're still not ready. I want you to speak to that individual and answer the following question of how live events, how you've witnessed how live events can transform a business, and why entrepreneurs or thought leaders should consider hosting a live event in 2018.
So the biggest factor in that, the biggest factor in that is really and truly, there's nothing like getting in front of people and being with people for 3 days, right? It's the quickest way for people to really get to know you, for really people to experience you, for you to experience an audience and quickly get to know who is your ideal client, right? Because when you're online and you do webinars and you do online courses and even Zoom calls where you've got people in Zoom, um, people are always doing other things, right? They're watching the screen, but they're over here doing something else, right? Or they step away or they come back. But when you're in a live audience, it's a captive moment, right? There's nothing greater than watching somebody who thinks that they can't do an event, and we start small, and we put 10 people in a room, and we create a high level true experience for them. So from the moment they get there, they feel special. They don't even care that it's a 10-person room, right? They realize immediately that their experience is going to be this one-on-one, small, intimate instruction with the host, right? And so very quickly, now you've got 10 people that have experienced you for a day or even a weekend, right? And those 10 people have friends, and they're going to go out. They become your first 10 testimonies, if you will, right? And you can build on that. Like I just did an event with 10 people. It was great. We all took this away. You have them do little testimonials. This is what they took away. Now you can build on that, right? And I just did a retreat, and these people, so now you're ready to market your next retreat based on the experience and the results that you've had from those people. If you don't step out and do that, and you only keep on, I'm a proponent for online marketing and for having online courses, absolutely, webinars, trainings. In fact, in 2018, I'm hoping to do some more myself because they're a lot of fun and they help you connect as well and help you reach a wider audience. But bringing that wider audience into an intimate setting or into a 3-day event, even to 100, 200, 300 people, it is the best way to build your credibility, expand on what you're doing, have people become the expert quicker, right? And it's just that human connection, because everything that we do, so much of what we do, is on the online. It's with our cell phone, right? Even though it's personal, it still has an impersonal edge to it. And when you're with a live event audience, it's just personal. It just brings it home, right? And it's the quickest way to get to know people. It's the quickest way. Really, the benefit of doing a live event is if you have any question at all about who your avatar is, who you should be working with, put 10 people in a room and you will know. You will know. You will know. And by the end of that day or by the end of that weekend, I never want to work with those people. I only want to work with this kind of people. Right? And it's the quickest way to do that. And it's the quickest way for you, if you've not done a lot of teaching and training, it's the quickest way for you to understand the stamina that it takes to hold space for 10 people. If you can hold space for 10 people for 3 days, you can hold space for 100, 200, 300 people for 3 days.
Excellent. Excellent perspective, Linda. Excellent. Now, in terms of story time, please, and you do not have to mention specific names for this, but in your years of hosting events, you've come across people who Cinderella stories, so to speak, whether male or female, where they believed that they were at a certain level. They had maybe the expertise, but maybe not the confidence to get out and spread their message to the world. And they came to you for one reason or another to help them get over that hump. And through your formula, through your process, you've seen them blossom into superstars in their own right, whether it could be a 20-person event where their genius is shown. Can you share with us a story from your catalog of success? You don't have to mention names, where someone came to you and you saw the potential in them that they did not see in themselves, and once they went through the process, the light bulb just came on, and their star started to shine bright.
Oh gosh, I'm fortunate to have many of those. I'm fortunate to have many of those. One in particular that I can think of is that a client of mine who we're still working together. It's been 5 years, and we started with she came to me, and we did a 50. The goal was a 50-person event, right? And so we produced that, put it together, and it pretty much flopped. In the sense that we didn't hit our goal numbers. The audience had a great time. They never knew anything was wrong, right? But we didn't hit the goal numbers. There were a few things that got off track, and she maybe was going to teach something in one segment and felt like maybe she should teach something else, so she switched her pattern. She felt that she should change the offer and do it at a different time, and I was like, no, it needs to be done at this time, and well, I really want to do it at this time. And I'm like, well, you're the host and it's your event, so I'm here to support, and we will go with, we'll do that if that's what you want. And so there were a lot of things in the first event where at the end of it, when we sat and we looked at it and we're like, oh, we maybe should have tried this, or this didn't work right, and that worked really well. Certain components really worked really well. So we had the opportunity at that point to do two things. We could just say, screw it, this isn't working. She could have said, I'm out, I'm going to go find another planner. I don't think we're meshing together, right? I could have said, hey, you're not my avatar. This isn't going to work. You won't listen to me. There were a number of different things that could have taken place at that moment, at that time. But that's one of the things that I love so much about what I do, and my approach is so different, is because I really care about your success, my client's success, right? And almost like it's my event. And if they're not happy and it's not working, then it's almost like it didn't work for me either, And if they're happy and it worked, then it's like I feel really good too. And so it's a real fine line to walk of just how far you care and not care, right? So we sat down and we decided, we had a VIP day together, and we decided to give each other time, and we sat with each other and we went through every aspect of her event. Where did it work? Where didn't it work? What do we need to fix? What did we need to change, right? And so through that process, we came up with some new ideas, and we also looked at her pre-event marketing. And we're like, okay, now at that time, I didn't know that much about funnels and how funnels worked, and I knew about it, but I wasn't really into it, really fully understanding it. So I'm like, let's pull in your marketing person that did the marketing for you, and let's have a conversation with them. And we found out that in that process, we found out that once she sold a ticket and once she went and spoke on stage and gave a ticket away or sold tickets there, or she brought people in, they might get an email now and then, or they might get a Facebook post from her, but there wasn't a lot of engagement, right? And so people were not, the audience that came, they did not really know her. There wasn't a lot of pre-event connection. So it took us the whole first day of that event, we realized, to get the audience to warm up to her, to get the audience to know her. And so then so really you want the audience to kind of come in having a warm fuzzy about you in the beginning, right? So that they're ready to learn from you. So that was one thing that it took them longer, the audience longer to engage with her. So then when she did the offer, they were still a little cool, so to speak. And so for the next event, so we just went through the different processes and looked at it. And for the next event, and she had probably a you know, a $70,000 profit on that first event, which wasn't bad, right? Most of us would love to make 50, 60, 70 extra $1,000 for the year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't that bad. But for her second event, what we did is, because we went through this process and we felt that we were better ready for an audience and she was better ready for an event, what we did is that we really put in place for her an engagement process. So people were getting, you know, do this in preparation of the event, listen to this in preparation of the event. Here's a great book that I recommend you read, not for the event, but just to read. Here's a great webinar series that I did that will benefit you. You might want to take a look at, right? And sometimes she just got on with the audience. I'm having a Q&A call this week. So any questions that you have, bring them. I'm going to be available for an hour. I'll take all your questions that I can in an hour. And sometimes she would have 10, 20 people on those calls. Sometimes she would just have 2 or 3. And so she really developed a good, solid engagement process pre-event. So when people that next time got to her event, they were like, oh, hey, hi, I'm here. You know, they were so excited to be there because they knew her. They felt like they were ready for her. They felt like they knew her. And so anyway, so she, so the second event, you know, we were going through the process and we came to the second day and she said, gosh, you know, I'm still feeling like I need to do my offer earlier. And I'm like, no, the offer is set for this time and please, we're going to keep it here. She's like, okay. So she did some more training, teaching, and then we did the offer in the afternoon on the second day. And it was so well received and so exciting for her, and people took the application and they were really hungry for it. They were ready for it, right? And so that second event, she made nearly $250,000 at clearing, netting out her $250,000, and so she was excited and great. So then we did a couple more years of events and things like that. Now I'm a firm believer that training, live events like training, it has a life expectancy, right? So a live event, let's say you're doing the blah, 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 blah summit, and you do it 3 years in a row. At the end of the third year, you either need to start expanding and getting some new audience in, or you need to change your program just enough that it re-engages people that hadn't bought for you for those 3 years and re-engages them and reconnects them and also expands your audience to some new people, or you need to change your program entirely and for the next 3 years come out with phase 2, you know, upgraded, up-leveled, because you will start attracting people. You know, your tribe will start to follow you, which is a good thing. But it's also can be a challenge because if you're getting the same people in the room and you're not getting enough of a mix of new people, and your current students keep coming back, and your past attendees keep coming back, then all of a sudden your 100% audience can be made up with 60 people that already know and like and trust you. And they've already done some things with you. So your buying units in the room will only be 40 buying units. So then people start to see their sales go down, and they get frustrated, and they think, oh, my live event's not working, and it must be this or that or the planner or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really it's because you're not reaching more of your audience of who you need to be reaching, because you're building a tribe, which is a great thing, but they're coming because they want to be with you. And that's also how events build up in attendance, because you have your people that repeat that come back, you have your current clients that come back, right? So at her 3rd year mark, we started to see this trend, right? Her first event was a bust, let's say. Second event was off the charts, was great. The 3rd event was a good event, but the audience wasn't as mixed. And so we noticed that trend. So then she decided, okay, well then maybe growing big audience, and at that time she was up to about 200 people in the audience. And we're like, maybe growing the big audience is not really where she best connects. She really does well in the smaller 30 to 40 audience, because she really likes the more workshop style. So we switched some things around. We re-engaged her marketing, and she started, rather than doing the big event, we went back to going, let's get 50 people in the room, right? But instead of doing a free or a $97 ticket or a $197 ticket, let's just really, they're going to get a lot of value, so let's just make it a $997 entry ticket, and we'll sell a VIP experience above that. So her 4th year that we did, she had a higher vetted audience, right? And so she made almost $1 million from that 4th event, because the audience was more engaged. We had figured out the modality of, or the process for her event. We had figured out who she really needed to attract to work with, and that's who was in the room. Now, she did have some current clients in the room, and she did have some past people in the room, but it quickly gave her the audience that she needed. So now she's doing 2 of those a year, and she does one in spring and one in the summer, and she sells in anywhere from, her averaging is, her 2 for her 4th year averaged a little over 700, and her 2 in her 5th year, we start her 6th year in 2018, and the 2 for this year pushed her really close to the $1 million mark. Along with that, she also had, we also produced 2 more intimate, up-level, high-level retreats. So people that were already in program had the opportunity to do a workshop in her home with her. And we had 16 people go into her home to work with her. And from there, she sold VIP days and also some one-on-one coaching. So I might say hers has always been a group coaching program. She didn't have a one-on-one aspect. We kept the one-on-one aspect. We developed that in the 4th and 5th year. At the intimate retreats is where she would sell the one-on-ones. And then so she sold her one-on-ones for $60,000, and we had, I think, almost 9 people at the last retreat buy the $60,000 one-on-ones. So she's now into her 7-figure bracket and having a blast and having a wonderful time. And it's a pacing. It grows, you tweak, change, fix it. Sometimes you keep going with the bigger events. Sometimes you back up, re-engage, bring back in the smaller audience, have them be higher vetted. So you have to figure it out. And the really great thing about it is, if you love being in front of an audience and you love being with people, then live events is for you, whether it's 10 people in a room or 100, 200, 300 people in a room. If you love doing that, then that's when you should be doing live events all the time.
Excellent insights. Now, what has preparing, planning, and putting together the productions for live events taught you most about yourself?
Oh, wow. So, a lot. A lot. I would say the biggest thing that it's taught me is to be more organized. I'm constantly improving. There's a Japanese word called kaizen that means constantly improving, improving upon. And I sort of have adapted that word now as sort of my personal motto. I'm in a kaizen moment, right? And it's always learning, always growing, always being watchful of what's working, what's not working, and then systematizing it, putting it into place, um, listening to what's not being said has been my biggest. In 2007, I would say my biggest growth and learning for me is to listen to what's not being said. So, and by that, what I mean is um, some of my clients, we're in a groove because we've worked together. So I have to even be more attentive to the process and not just get complacent in that, hey, we're doing another event. Oh, yay. It's another blah, blah event and let it, we think we know what it's going to be. My team and I come together and we're like, okay, we're doing another event, and we refocus ourselves, and I refocus myself and treat it as if it was a first event, right? So that, okay, what can we do new? How can we engage the audience differently? How can we engage our client differently? What can I draw out of the client that maybe we haven't drawn out yet? Maybe there's some other nugget that's there that needs to be uncovered that we can help the client draw out, so that people don't get complacent, so the host doesn't get complacent, and so the team doesn't get complacent, right? So, and that's unsaid. It's not something that you're going to talk about, but it's learning to read what's not being said. I'll give you a good example. I have a client where we're planning an event for next year, and we picked a date and we picked a location, and the location it just wasn't seeming to come together. Every time we had to deal with the location, in the contract process, just sort of like was not quite working. But it's what the client really wanted to go, where the client really wants to go, and what the client really wants to do. And so I finally just said, look, I'm going to step out on a limb here, and I hope I'm not, um, going to upset you in any way or anything, but I'm not feeling this. It's like a, round peg in a square hole. And and from my perspective, I'll do whatever you want, but from my perspective, it's just not feeling right. And I'm watching you because people just aren't hopping aboard. They're not signing up real quick. And that's not the pattern of your group. Your group, once you make an announcement that you're doing an event, they're there. They're signing up. They're catching that early bird. They're jumping on. But I think the location is wrong, and I think we just need to revisit the location. And so we were right down to the wire where we had to put a big deposit down. And he's like, okay, fine, I agree. We'll just cancel it. Find a new location, and we'll go about it differently. And so we did that, and it was within an hour. He was like, "Oh, I feel so much better, thank you." Yes, and it was like this, and me too. And it was like this weight got off. Made a couple phone calls, found another location. It's perfect. It has all the components of the first one that we wanted. Price was even better. Lower food and beverage minimum that we had to come in with, and everything all around. So it was like, okay, this is where we're going. And the signups, like I said, just started flowing in. So for me, it's that listening, always trying to improve, always trying to, how can I make this process better? How can I serve the client in a higher level, a higher capacity? And what can I see for them that will help them, to improve or reach their audience.
Absolutely. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have gone down an incredible timeline of the life and times of Linda Cain. And in this journey, we have learned quite a bit in terms of, number one, the live event experience when you are looking to take your message, take your book, take your expertise and scale to the next level and build your public speaking business. It is not an aspect that is to be done as a solo mission or a solo sport. You need the right team beside you. And the quality of Linda and event planners of that magnitude are what allow you to grow your business to new heights and to scale beyond what you may have thought is possible on your own. We've also learned that live events in itself are exactly the same attributes or qualities that you face as an entrepreneur, in that you have to trust the process. You also have to make adjustments. You have to look for feedback on how to improve each and every step along the way. And it is a process in that your live event success does not happen overnight. You have to build up your audience and continuously refine what you're doing, and also look at new ways to reinvent what you're doing to bring in new lifeblood as in terms of audience, in terms of just reinvigorating what you're doing. We cannot thank you enough, Linda, for your time, your expertise, and your energy on Conversational Currency. Where can my audience find out more about your mission and your business?
Oh, they can go to eventsbybludiamond.com, and the blue has no E, so it's eventsbyblu, BLU, diamond.com. They can also call me and text me directly at 626-252-2834, and they email me at lindacainoffice@gmail.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, your message deserves an audience, and through Blu Diamond, Linda Cain, you now have a resource that I've seen in action time and time and time again. For me, this conversation was a privilege, in that I'm a live event organizer myself. And when I see greater examples of what I'm able to create, I always have to take a step back and say, how is this possible? And in this conversation, I learned that it is so much that goes into a great live event. And for that, I am thankful. On behalf of Conversational Currency and Linda Cain, I thank you very much for tuning in. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you chose to spend time with us. And for that, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in.